The United States 1990 D. Washington Quarter Dollar is part of the long-running Washington Quarter Series, first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, and the 1990 D issue continues this traditional design that had been used for decades prior to the launch of the State Quarters program in 1999. The obverse front of the 1990 D quarter features a left-facing portrait of George Washington designed by sculptor John Flanagan, based on Jean-Antoine Houdon's famous bust of Washington. Surrounding the portrait are the familiar inscriptions: Liberty at the top, representing the foundational American ideal. In God We Trust, to Washington's lower left, the national motto adopted on coins since the 19th century, and the year 1990 at the bottom, indicating its date of mintage. The small letter D, located to the right of Washington's ponytail, stands for the Denver Mint, one of the United States Mint's primary coin-producing facilities, which struck hundreds of millions of quarters that year. The reverse back retains the classic heraldic eagle, also designed by Flanagan, a bold American eagle with spread wings, perched on a bundle of arrows symbolizing strength and readiness, while two olive branches curve below symbolizing peace. Above the eagle is the legend, United States of America, and immediately below that is the motto, E pluribus unum, Latin for out of many one, referring to the union of the states. Below the eagle are the denomination markings quarter dollar. The 1990 D quarter is composed of copper-nickel clad, meaning a pure copper core sandwiched between layers of copper-nickel alloy, 75% copper, 25% nickel, giving the coin durability and its characteristic silvery color. Its standard weight is 5.67 grams, diameter 24.26 millimeters, and reeded edge with 119 reeds, following specifications in place since 1965. The Denver Mint produced a large number of these coins, over 800 million, making them plentiful in circulation and generally common for collectors today. Although most 1990 D quarters hold only face value when worn, well-preserved examples in uncirculated condition, MS 60 and higher, can carry a small premium, and exceptionally high-grade specimens, such as MS 67 or MS 68, are scarce and valued significantly higher by grading standards of PCGS and NGC due to the difficulty of finding flawless coins in such a large mass production run. A few error varieties are known for this year, including off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and weak strikes, all of which can increase value depending on severity and visual appeal. However, major dramatic errors from 1990 are less common than those from some later years. Historically, the 1990 D quarter represents the closing decade of the classic Washington Eagle design before the United States Mint introduced the state quarters in 1999, which transformed American coin collecting into a mainstream hobby. Because it comes from the era when quarters were still produced mainly for circulation rather than for special series, the 1990 D is seen by collectors as a piece of late 20th century American monetary history, showing the mature and unaltered form of Flanagan design as it had existed for nearly 60 years. Today, the coin continues to circulate commonly and serves as a reminder of the period just before the immense redesigns of the 2000s, while retaining the timeless national mottos, In God We Trust and E pluribus unum, which evoke the values and heritage the next. Top. The 1991 United States Washington Quarter Dollar is part of the long-running Washington Quarter Series, first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, and the 1991 issue continues the traditional obverse and reverse designs that had been used for decades until the state quarters began in 1999. The obverse front of the coin features the familiar bust of Washington sculpted by John Flanagan, a design chosen from several competition entries during the Depression era. Effort to commemorate the first president with a circulating coin, and this obverse includes several prominent inscriptions. Liberty at the top, placed boldly above Washington's head to emphasize the founding ideals of the nation. In God We Trust to the lower left side of the portrait, a motto that became mandatory on U.S. coins during the 20th century and represents the country's historical reliance on divine guidance, and the date 1991 centered beneath Washington's bust, with the P mint mark to the right of the ponytail ribbon, indicating that the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, the oldest U.S. mint facility and one of the highest volume coin production centers in the world. The reverse, back, of the 1991 P quarter features the long-used heraldic eagle design, another work of Flanagan, which showcases a strong, realistic American bald eagle with outstretched wings, clutching a bundle of arrows in its talons to symbolize military readiness and national defense, and an olive branch to signify peace and diplomacy. Above the eagle arches the inscription, United States of America, the legal issuer of the coin, under which appears the classical motto, E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one, a phrase representing the unity of the states into a single nation. Beneath the eagle is the coin's face value, $quarter, identifying it as 25 cents in the decimal U.S. currency system. In terms of physical specifications, the 1991 P quarter is composed of the modern clad construction the Mint adopted in 1965 after removing silver from regular circulating coinage, and the coin consists of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This layering gives the coin its distinctive two-tone edge, the copper center showing as a copper band and the outer layers presenting the silver-colored cupronickel surface. The coin weighs 5.67 grams, has a 24.26 millimeters diameter, a thickness of roughly 1.75 millimeters, and features 119 reeds on the edge, a reeded pattern originally developed to prevent shaving or counterfeiting on precious metal coins, but retained for tradition and tactile recognition. The Philadelphia Mint produced a very large number of 1,991 quarters, tens of millions, ensuring that the 1991 P issue is common in circulation and not rare in most grades. This abundance means that a typical circulated example generally holds face value, whereas uncirculated pieces in high mint state grades, MS, 65 or above, may have slightly higher numismatic value for collectors, especially if they show strong luster, minimal bag marks, and sharp strikes. While most 1991 P quarters are standard, collectors sometimes search for unusual die varieties or mint errors such as off-center strikes, clipped planchets, double dies, or die cracks, though none are widely recognized as major varieties for this year. Still, unique or dramatic errors can hold premium value depending on severity and rarity. Historically, the Washington quarter design of this era represents the final stretch of the classic heraldic eagle reverse, a design that had appeared nearly continuously since the 1930s and would be replaced only a few years later with a 50-state quarters program beginning in 1999, which transformed the quarter into a popular collectible. Therefore, the 1991 P stands as part of the pre-state late 20th century Washington quarters, a period when the design and metal composition were standardized, making coins like this representative of everyday American commerce at the close of the Cold War and during the early 1990s. For new collectors, studying a 1991 P quarter helps illustrate modern minting techniques used during this era, including high-speed coining presses, clad metal bonding methods, and automated quality control systems that supported extraordinary production volume. Moreover, the inscriptions, Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, E pluribus unum, reflect a deep layer of national symbolism embedded into small pieces of circulating currency that millions of people use daily, reminding us that even a common 25-cent piece carries visual messages about American identity, history, unity, and civic values. The 1991 P quarter therefore offers both everyday familiarity and historical meaning. It is ordinary enough to be found in pocket change, yet important enough to represent a nearly century-long American coinage tradition, a tradition that links the founding ideals of the United States with the mass-production technology of the modern mint, making the coin a tiny, enduring artifact of the nation's the next top. The United States of America quarter dollar dated 1993, P is part of the long-running Washington quarter series, which had been in circulation since 1932 and was originally created to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The 1993 issue, struck before the introduction of the 50-state quarters program in 1999, features the classic heraldic eagle reverse that had been the standard since 1932, with slight modifications over time. On the obverse, the coin displays the left-facing portrait of George Washington, originally sculpted by John Flanagan from a bust by Jean-Antoine Houdon. Surrounding Washington's profile are key inscriptions: Liberty positioned prominently above his head, In God We Trust located to the left along the field, and the date, 1993, beneath the truncation of the bust. The presence of the P mint mark, placed just to the right of the ribbon at Washington's ponytail, signifies that the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the major U.S. mint facilities responsible for high-volume circulation coinage. On the reverse, Flanagan design features a majestic, heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, clutching a bundle of arrows, symbolizing military readiness, while an olive branch placed below suggests the nation's desire for peace. Above the eagle arches the inscription, United States of America, followed by the traditional motto, E pluribus unum, a Latin phrase meaning, out of many, one, which captures the unifying spirit of the nation formed from diverse states and peoples. Below the eagle is the denomination quarter dollar, clearly stating the coin's value. The 1993 P. Washington quarter is made of the standard clad composition adopted after the Coinage Act of 1965, an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, giving the coin strength, durability, and the familiar silvery appearance without the use of silver. Circulation quarters after 1964 no longer contain silver. The coin weighs approximately 5.67 grams, measures 24.26 millimeters in diameter, has a reeded edge, and was manufactured using high-speed presses capable of producing hundreds of coins per minute. In terms of mintage, the Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of 1993 P quarters, making them common in circulation and not rare in typical worn grades. However, collectors sometimes seek them in uncirculated rolls, mint sets, and high-grade certified conditions, especially examples exhibiting sharp strikes, strong luster, or the absence of contact marks from the minting and distribution process. Although not considered a scarce or high-value coin in ordinary condition, the 1993 P quarter holds significance as part of the final decade of the Eagle Reverse era, just before the United States embarked on a new era of commemorative reverse designs, making it a representative example of pre-2000 American coinage. For many collectors, especially beginners, a 1993 P quarter serves as an accessible introduction to identifying mint marks, studying the intricacies of Washington's portrait, and appreciating the symbolism embedded in national coin designs, from the motto, In God We Trust, a reflection of national tradition, to the phrase, E pluribus unum, which expresses the foundational ideal of unity. Whether found in pocket change or preserved in a collection, the 1993 P. Washington quarter stands as a small but enduring piece of American history, embodying decades of minting practices, artistic intention, and the evolving story of the nation's circulating currency. The next top. The 1994 D. United States quarter dollar, minted at the Denver Mint, identified by the D. mint mark located to the right of George Washington's ponytail on the obverse, is part of the long-running Washington quarter series, which began in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth and continued with the same general design until the state quarters program started in 1999. The 1994 D thus sits in the final era of the classic Eagle Reverse Washington quarters. Struck from copper-nickel-clad metal, consisting of outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, the coin has a standard weight of 5.67 grams, a diameter of 24.26 millimeters, and a reeded edge. The obverse features the familiar bust of George Washington based on the original design by sculptor John Flanagan, with the inscriptions Liberty above his portrait and In God We Trust to the left of his profile. Below is the date 1994. The phrase In God We Trust has appeared on U.S. coinage since the Civil War era and was made mandatory on all circulating coins by 1955, reflecting national tradition and identity. The reverse of the 1994 D quarter displays the heraldic American eagle with outstretched wings, perched on a bundle of arrows symbolizing strength and readiness to defend the nation, with two olive branches below representing peace. Above the eagle arches the inscription, United States of America, while the center bears the motto, E pluribus unum, Latin for out of many one, expressing national unity from diverse states, and the denomination quarter dollar is shown at the bottom. Denver minted hundreds of millions of these quarters, over 880 million, making the 1994 D common in circulation and generally worth only face value unless found in uncirculated, high-grade, or rare variety condition. Collectors may seek well-preserved specimens graded MS 65 or higher, which can carry modest premiums, especially if the coin has frosty luster, strong strike details, and minimal contact marks. Rare mint-error versions, such as off-center strikes, broad strikes, or die cracks, can also attract higher interest. As one of the last standard Washington quarters before the historic design changes of 1999, the 1994 D serves as a representative example of late 20th century American coinage, linking traditional iconography, Washington's portrait, patriotic mottos, and the heraldic eagle with the everyday commerce of the United States, making it both a familiar circulating coin and the next top. The 1996 United States quarter dollar, minted at the Philadelphia Mint, is part of the long-running Washington Quarter series, which began in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The 1996 issue retains the classic design used from 1932 through 1998, prior to the launch of the state quarters program. Struck in copper-nickel clad composition, an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, the coin weighs 5.67 grams, measures 24.3 millimeters in diameter, and features a reeded edge. On the obverse, the familiar left-facing bust of George Washington designed by sculptor John Flanagan appears prominently, with the word Liberty arched across the top edge, the inscription, In God We Trust, placed to Washington's left, and the year 1996 at the bottom, while the P Mint mark, signifying the Philadelphia Mint, sits just to the right of the portrait. The reverse continues the pre-1999 Washington Quarters heraldic eagle motif, also by Flanagan. A bold American bald eagle with wings spread wide, perched confidently on a bundle of arrows symbolizing national strength and readiness, framed below by two olive branches representing peace, with the country's name, United States of America, along the top rim, the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, centered beneath it, and the denomination quarter dollar, curved across the bottom. Over 1.9 billion 1996 P quarters were minted, making them extremely common in circulation, though well-preserved uncirculated examples, especially those with strong luster, sharp strike, or full detail in Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers, are favored by collectors seeking high-grade type coins. While the coin's face value is 25 cents, its value to hobbyists depends on condition, with typical circulated examples worth only face value, but pristine mint state coins, particularly those graded MS 66 or higher by professional grading services, commanding modest premiums due to eye appeal, strike quality, and scarcity in the highest grades. Rare mint errors from this year, such as off-center strikes, die cracks, broad strikes, or misaligned dies, can add further collectible interest. The mottos In God We Trust and E pluribus unum, both long-standing elements of United States coinage, reinforce the coin's symbolic role as a widely circulated artifact of American identity, federal history, and artistic continuity. Altogether, the 1996 P quarter is a modern yet nostalgic piece that serves as a representative example of late 20th century U.S. coinage, bridging the traditional Washington quarter era and the coming wave of commemorative state designs that transformed American pocket change just a few years later. The next top. The 1997 P United States quarter dollar is part of the long-running Washington Quarter series, first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, and the 1997 issue represents one of the final standard Eagle reverse quarters before the U.S. Mint launched the 50-state quarters program in 1999. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint, the coin carries the P. Mint mark, located to the right of Washington's ponytail ribbon on the obverse. The obverse, designed by John Flanagan, features a left-facing portrait of George Washington accompanied by the inscriptions Liberty above his head and In God We Trust positioned to the left of his profile, while the year 1997 appears below. The reverse of the coin, also designed by Flanagan, presents the classic heraldic eagle perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath, symbolizing the nation's balance of strength and peace. This side includes the inscriptions United States of America across the top, E pluribus unum centered above the eagle, and $quarter at the bottom. Composed of a copper-nickel-clad alloy with an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, the 1997 P quarter has a mass of 5.67 grams, a diameter of 24.26 millimeters, and a reeded edge consisting of 119 reeds. In terms of mintage, the Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of 1997 P quarters for circulation, making them common in everyday use and generally of standard face value unless found in unusually high grades. Collectors tend to look for specimens with sharp strikes, minimal contact marks, clean fields, and strong luster. Quarters graded MS 66 or MS 67 by reputable services such as PCGS or NGC can carry collector premiums because they represent the top percentage of surviving high-quality coins from this huge mintage. The 1997 P quarter is also historically interesting because it marks the end of an era. It is part of the last 2 years of the Washington Quarter's original Eagle Reverse series that had remained largely unchanged for 65 years before the dramatic redesign that began in 1999. Although the coin is common, it serves as a snapshot of U.S. coinage just prior to one of the most popular collecting programs in American history, and for that reason it retains a small but meaningful place in numismatic study. Collectors sometimes also examine this coin for possible die varieties or minor errors, such as die chips, die cracks, or off-center strikes, which can elevate value for specialists, even though major varieties for this specific year and mint are not widely recognized. In summary, the 1997 P. Washington Quarter may be an everyday coin in circulation, but it embodies historical continuity, traditional American symbolism, and the craftsmanship of the U.S. Mint during the late 20th century, making it an accessible entry point for new collectors and a nostalgic pre-state quarter artifact for seasoned numismatists.